If it weren't for the sign that was added many years after I started hiking by this trail, you would never know that there was a cemetery down this long, windy path because it's down a residential street, and on one side you have power lines and this road to the cemetery, but on the other side you have an actual hiking trail that runs from one side of the road through this side. In all the years that I was hiking, I never went across the street to this side of the trail. But once they put up the sign indicating that this was for the Letchworth Village Cemetery, I decided to take a walk through and see all the things that I've been missing for the years that it's been hidden here, and only really locals knew about it. Letchworth Village itself was a mental institution that was opened in 1911, which was supposed to be a progressive site that, rather than locking patients up in a single room, had a large village consisting of several buildings, allowing the patients to roam around the buildings. However, it was discovered, not rather quickly, but took quite a long time to find out, just how poor the conditions were in Letchworth Village. Believe it or not, Letchworth Village itself didn't actually close until 1996, which, if you think about it, is crazy. Now, the Letchworth Village Cemetery here was in use from 1914 until 1967. This is the first cemetery that was used. There is a extension in a different location. This particular cemetery is located a mile away from actually where Letchworth Village was. And in 2000, you can see here a plaque and marker stone were erected for the 900 people who are actually buried in this cemetery, most of which don't actually have any nameplates. There's merely a number indicating the grave marker. There are some that later on came back and actually erected headstones for the deceased, which you'll see a little later. But here you can see it's really isolated from everywhere. If you didn't know to walk down that trail, you would drive past this. And in fact, I had for many, many years. The sad thing is, on that tree there, you can actually see a hiking trail marker that runs through the cemetery. And here we can see some actual stones that were changed out later on, and then examples of the actual just numbers. And you can see how closely they are together, which means a lot of these were actually young children. The thing with Letchworth Village was, aside from being a progressive mental institution, one of the things that they did was actually test the polio vaccine on its residents, which, if you think about that, nowadays, that would not fly. Another southern ad aspect of this is you can see just how not really maintained this is. Those markers were pretty much overgrown by a tree, and there's a pathway that leads all the way around the cemetery, and a lot of these markers are really, really close to the side of the road where people walk and vehicles can actually make their way into the cemetery. Again, because there's a trail that comes up and around that can go through the cemetery. Even though the front is blocked off with a chain, you kind of get the idea that people have found ways around that. There you saw a broken headstone because the place has fallen into ill repair, because it's really not maintained even by the county. And this is that example I was telling you about just how close to the road some of those graves are. And also, when I came here, it had rained a couple of days before, so you can clearly see that there are fresh vehicle marks through here, as well as coming up right now, somebody definitely has been using this as an area to split firewood. Whether it's one of the locals across the street or somebody who's coming in to do that, it's a little upsetting to see, especially considering all that these people had gone through in the sake of mental health just not being something that was very well taken care of back then. So, if you're looking for an actual off the beaten path, little bit of history that has been forgotten by a lot, it's worth checking out the Letchworth Cemetery. I will leave coordinates down in the description area below so you can get here and find it. There is a blue sign up front which makes it much easier to find, but the coordinates will make it so you get exactly where you need to go, and then you can check this out for yourself.